There's a letter I wrote 50 years ago, but I never sent it. It was a chilly autumn afternoon when I found it. I had been rummaging through my attic, looking for an old toolbox, when I stumbled upon a dusty wooden chest tucked away in the corner. The sight of it sent a strange shiver down my spine, like I had just disturbed something long forgotten. With trembling hands, I lifted the lid, revealing stacks of faded photographs, some old baseball cards, and beneath them all, a single yellowed envelope. My name was scrawled across it in my own handwriting. I swallowed hard. I knew exactly what this was. I sat down on an old trunk, heart pounding, as I carefully unfolded the fragile letter. The words on the page stared back at me, a message from a foolish young man in 1973. Mary, if I don't tell you this now, I might regret it for the rest of my life. I love you. I have loved you since the first time we met. I don't know if you feel the same, but if there's even a small chance, please, meet me by the old oak tree in Cloverfield Park on Friday at sunset. If you're there, I'll know. If you're not, I'll never bother you again. A bitter laugh escaped me. 50 years. For 50 years, I had believed that Mary never came, that she had moved on without looking back. And in a way, I had tried to do the same, burying my regret under work, under routine, under the belief that some things just weren't meant to be. But then, as I stared at the letter in my hands, a terrifying realization hit me. I never sent it. My breath caught in my throat. Could that be right? Had I really been so much of a coward that I wrote the words, but never gave her the chance to see them? I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to recall that summer in Richmond. I remembered writing the letter, pouring my heart into every word. But then doubt. Fear. What if she said no? What if she laughed? Somewhere along the way, I must have convinced myself it was safer to keep the letter than to risk rejection. I groaned, rubbing a hand over my face. Walter, you idiot. All these years, I had lived under the weight of a mistake I never even made. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to fix it. My pulse quickened as a new thought took hold. What if I could find her? What if, after all this time, Mary was still out there? Of course, 50 years was a long time. She could be anywhere. Married. Living in another state. Or, my chest tightened at the thought, she might not even be alive anymore. Still, I had to try. With renewed determination, I folded the letter carefully, tucked it into my pocket, and made my way downstairs. I didn't know where to start, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let fear stop me this time. Finding someone after 50 years is like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. At first, I thought the internet would make things easy. My grandson Tommy had shown me how to use Google last Christmas, though most of what I retained was how to accidentally close every tab at once. Still, I sat down at my computer and typed, Mary Whitaker, Richmond, Virginia. 2 million results. 2 million. I sighed, clicking through pages of strangers who weren't the woman I was looking for. After an hour, all I had accomplished was giving myself a headache and accidentally subscribing to a gardening newsletter. Next, I turned to Facebook, which was its own disaster. I found at least 10 Mary Whitakers, but none of them were her. One was a teenager with pink hair, one was an elderly woman from Canada, and one was a cat. Unbelievable, I muttered. At this point, I needed help. That's when I remembered Charlie Dawson. Charlie had been my best friend since we were kids, and if there was one thing I knew about him, it was that he somehow always knew everyone's business. If Mary was still in town, he'd know. I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. He picked up on the third ring. Well, if it isn't Walter Coleman. What's got you calling me at this fine hour? It's 2 in the afternoon, Charlie. Like I said, fine hour. I rolled my eyes. Listen, do you remember Mary Whitaker? There was a pause. Then laughter. Do I remember Mary Whitaker? Charlie wheezed. Walter, you're joking, right? My stomach flipped. No, I'm serious. I need to find her. Charlie made a sound that was somewhere between a chuckle and a sigh. Buddy, I don't know how to break this to you, but you've been looking in the wrong places. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean? He hesitated, and for a moment, I thought he was going to tell me something terrible. But instead, he said, meet me at Millie's Diner tomorrow morning. Trust me, you'll want to see this in person. I frowned. Charlie, if you know something, just tell me. Aha, he interrupted. Just be there at 10. And bring your best Sunday suit. What? Why click? He hung up. I sat there for a long moment, staring at my phone. What did Charlie know? Why was he laughing? And most importantly, was Mary closer than I ever imagined? I arrived at Millie's diner the next morning, wearing what Charlie dramatically called my Sunday suit, which was really just my best button-down shirt and a jacket that hadn't fit right since the late 90s. The place smelled like fresh coffee and buttered toast, the kind of comforting scent that made you feel like you belonged. It hadn't changed much over the years, the same checkered floors, the same neon best pancakes in town, sign flickering in the window. And Charlie, the same old rascal, was already waiting for me in a corner booth, a wide grin plastered on his face. Well, look who actually showed up, he said, sipping his coffee. I slid into the seat across from him. All right, Charlie. No more games. Where is Mary? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he tilted his head toward the counter. Turn around. A strange knot formed in my stomach. Slowly I turned. And there she was. Behind the counter, pouring coffee for a customer, stood Mary Whitaker. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She had aged, of course, we both had. Her once dark hair was now a soft silver, her face lined with the quiet stories of the years. But her eyes were exactly the same warmth, the same spark of kindness. And she had been here, all along. You're joking, I muttered under my breath. Charlie chuckled. No joke, pal. She took over the diner after Millie retired. She's been living in this town for years. Years. How had I never known? How had I spent decades thinking she was lost to me when she was right here? Charlie gave me a nudge. Go on. Say something. Before I could protest, Mary turned, and our eyes met. For a heartbeat, it was like time folded in on itself. We weren't two old folks in a diner anymore. We were young again, standing in the golden light of a summer evening, just before I was supposed to meet her under that oak tree. Her lips parted slightly. Then a smile. Well, she said, wiping her hands on her apron. Walter Coleman. Now there's a face I haven't seen in a long time. Her voice was warm, familiar. My throat tightened. I cleared my throat. It's good to see you, Mary. Charlie, the absolute traitor, stood up and clapped me on the back. I'll leave you two to catch up. Then he winked and sauntered out the door, whistling like he had just performed a miracle. Mary raised an eyebrow. What was that about? I hesitated. Then, my fingers curled around the letter in my pocket. I have something to show you, I said, pulling it out and setting it on the table. Her eyes flickered with curiosity. What's this? A letter, I said softly. From 1973. One I should have given you a long time ago. She looked at me for a long moment before picking it up and unfolding the delicate paper. As she read, her face changed, first surprise, then something deeper, something raw. When she finally looked up, her eyes were shimmering. Walter. Her voice was barely above a whisper. If you had sent this letter back then, my stomach clenched. Would it have changed anything? She let out a breath, a soft, almost disbelieving laugh. Walter, I was there that night, she said. The world tilted beneath me. You were there? She nodded. I waited under that oak tree for over an hour. I thought maybe you changed your mind. I felt like the ground had been ripped from under me. 50 years of regret crashed over me like a tidal wave. I thought you never came, I whispered. Her smile was sad. And I thought you didn't want me. The truth of it, how close we had been, how one simple mistake had kept us apart for half a century, hit me like a freight train. I closed my eyes, trying to push down the ache in my chest. 50 years. Wasted. But then her hand covered mine. Soft. Steady. Warm. And when I opened my eyes, she was smiling. But maybe, she said gently, we were always meant to find each other, just a little later than planned. We sat there for a long time, holding hands across the table, letting the weight of it all settle. All the years lost. The nights we spent wondering. The moments we could have had. But also, the time we still had left. I took a deep breath. Mary, would you? I hesitated, then chuckled. I was about to ask if you'd like to go on a date, but I guess I should have done that 50 years ago. She laughed softly. Well, Walter, better late than never. And just like that, we started again. We took slow walks in the park, reminiscing about the past, sharing the stories of the lives we had built apart. We talked about the people we had lost, the dreams we had chased, the things we still hoped for. One evening, we found ourselves in Cloverfield Park, standing beneath the same oak tree, where everything had almost started all those years ago. Mary sighed, looking up at the branches. Funny, isn't it? How life has a way of bringing things full circle. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, folded note. She gave me a playful look. Another letter? I grinned. This time, I'm delivering it on time. She opened it and read, Mary, I love you. I have loved you since the first time we met. I don't know if you feel the same, but if there's even a small chance, please meet me by the old oak tree in Cloverfield Park at sunset. Tears welled in her eyes, but she laughed through them. Walter, you stubborn old fool. You didn't have to rewrite the letter. I'm already here. I took her hands in mine, my heart hammering like it was 1973 all over again. I know, I said softly, but I wanted to make sure this time. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light through the leaves, I realized something. 50 years had passed. We had lost time, so much time. But love had never left. Love had waited. And now, at last, we had found our way back to it.